Hello, everybody. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining. I know we took a little break last time, but here we are back again, building our casual game in Flutter. My name is Roman. I am a Flutter GDE lead organizer at GDG Lawrence, and I'm just happy to be here one more week, another day where we are completing our casual game application. We're making a lot of progress in it. Today's turn is actually, we're going to be doing Firebase Authentication. We're going to be adding Crashlytics. We're going to finish submitting a score to our Firebase Cloud Firestore. We're going to be doing a lot of cool things. So let's see how much we can cover in 1 hour. Just wanted to see a bunch of people already joining. Thank you so much. I see someone already. Great. Thank you. Thank you so much. Everybody join. Welcome. You know the drill. If you're new, if this is your first time here, if you tweet Flutter Live Coding throughout the duration of the session, I am going to ship to you this amazing Firebase t-shirt. So you're going to get a Firebase t-shirt just like this one if you tweet Flutter Live Coding throughout the duration of this session. So again, like I said, I'm Roman Jacques. I am a Flutter GDE, and here we go. Let's start. So again, some of you already seen this application that we've been building for the past 11 weeks. We only skipped last week because I was in the Firebase Summit, actually picking up more Firebase knowledge so I can implement it in this application. So yes, I took a little break. I just gave you a little break, guys, but here we are back again on the grind, building this application, finalizing it today. We're going to be implementing Firebase Authentication. We're going to be adding a Google provider to that as a third-party provider. We're going to be adding Google. I'm going to be also be able to submit the score to my Firebase Cloud Firestore collection, the leaderboards collection in there. And then we're going to even do Crashlytics. That way on the field, when your application is on the wild, you want to know whether the application crashed. You want to be able to log. You want to be able to send information, usage information from your application, and you want that to actually be stored in Firebase. Let's do that. So thank you, everybody, for joining. Thank you. Careful with that axe. Jane, thank you again for joining. Please stay there. You're going to learn a lot. So thank you so much. I hope you can pick one thing or two. Hey, Damien, welcome, buddy. I know you missed me. I know you missed me because I missed you too. Thank you so much again, Damien, for joining. He's an amazing up-and-coming Flutter developer. He's been developing great applications. So thank you again, Damien, for joining. Everybody else, welcome. Stay tuned. Let's do this. So I'm going to go back to the screen, and I'm going to show you exactly where we left off last time. I know that, I'm going to have to refresh your memory again on where we were, but I'm going to run it one more time. This is a casual game like I showed in the previous screen. So this is a casual game called Skipping Frog. I've built it completely in Flutter from scratch right in front of you. Please take a look at the previous session so you can see how I've been building this application. Let me show you what this application is all about. When you hit start, this is a little frog that is supposed to jump from leaf to leaf, and then it's gonna make its way all the way until the end of the pond. Right? It's gonna jump from leaf to leaf. So the point of the game is you have to swipe in the direction of the leaf that you see, and then you're going to make the frog jump. Then you eat little bugs along the way. You collect points. Make sure not to fall in the water. Make sure that you jump from leaf to leaf correctly. Otherwise, then you lose. So remember how it goes. You swipe in the direction of the leaf, and then you make the frog jump. At the end of the let's say of the pond. Right now, this is just a simplified version, but you're gonna get a lot more leaves, a lot more to jump. So when you get to the end of the game, like of the end of the journey, then you can submit your score. For example, you see that it says score 300, and then whoever makes the shortest amount of time, whoever gets to the end of the pond with the shortest amount of time and the highest score wins. That is then the scores that we're gonna submit to the leaderboard. So now when you click submit score, we're gonna be able to do that. But because you get this error, is because we haven't implemented. You see, I'm showing you right stuff. I'm not making it up, guys. I'm making it, building it in front of your eyes, not rehearsed. You see that? That's on purpose right there. Actually, I'm not showing, so I'm going to show you the application. There it is. Look, I'm getting this error right there. It's because I haven't implemented it. So yes, I haven't implemented it. It is not rehearsed. It is blowing up. It's because I'm going to implement it right in front of your eyes. So let's do this. So I'm going to reload again, and we're going to start working. So this is exactly, and Damien, you've already seen it. Hey, Marco, thank you so much for joining. Marco Napoli, he's a good friend of mine, an amazing Flutter developer, published author, amazing community member, a great Flutter contributor. I see a lot of familiar faces again. Thank you so much, guys. So I'm going to now implement the login service. It's going to allow me to wrap around like all the functionality for logging in. So that's exactly what I'm going to be implementing. I hope you guys can see it. Make sure to tweet Flutter Live Coding throughout the duration of this session. At the end of the session, I'm going to be raffling a Firebase t-shirt just like this one. You guys know the drill. So if you, let's say, if you feel lost, like, oh, what is Roman doing? Well, I've been building this application for the past 11 weeks. Today, I'm going to be incorporating Firebase Authentication, Firebase Crashlytics, and submitting the score. So let's take a look. That's exactly where I'm going to leave it right there. So let's start. Let's go ahead. So again, we are going to be implementing, and I'm going to, I already created like a little bit of a scaffold so that you guys don't get bored, and at least we can cover a lot in an hour. So what I'm going to implement is the login service. The login service will be like a wrapper that will implement the Firebase authentication for preventing for users logging into the application, submitting the score under their credentials, and then that way we can store it in Firebase. So here, let me show you again. This is my Firebase application. If you see the Firebase collection, if I go to Firebase Firestore database, you will see that I have my leaderboard already with 3 folks, and Damien, you're there, Sirhan is there, I don't know if Sirhan is in the house, and me, I'm there. So you see, like, I'm going to be storing the highest score in the collection, so I'm storing that information and storing in the Firebase Cloud Firestore collection. So let's start. So I'm going to show you now how to do that. So one of the things that I wanted to discuss, let me just move this over to the side and just keep you guys in there just in case anybody has any questions. And please, yes, let me leave a comment, just say hi, do anything. Let me see of today I have, yeah, there we go. So let's do this. Okay, so got it. So we're going to be implementing the login service. I already created like a kind of like a little bit of a scaffold for you right here. I created a class that I'm calling it login service. Login service, again, just like as you know me, how I do it, like I create my isolated services, I create true separation of concerns, I kind of wrap around the implementation around like a wrapper class. In this case, the login service will represent the login aspect, like people will be able to signing in, they will be able to sign in, to sign out, check if, the information about the logged in user and whatnot. So I created a model. If you see here, even though the credentials from Firebase Authentication give you already a user, I still wanted to encapsulate it in my own model. So I created something called login user model, which is the only thing I'm going to hold. I wanted to make something much lighter. So I created a model which I'm only going to store the display name, email, photo URL, and the UID. That's all I'm going to store for the logged in user. And then if you see, it's a very simple service. I'm gonna have a button that says like sign in with Google. This is fake, by the way. I'm just faking something so that you guys can see it. But the actual workflow will be like when I sign into Google, I will go into the Firebase Authentication. I will import an instance of Firebase Authentication. I will log in. I will use those credentials and bring back the information about the logged in user and then use it in the application. But again, all of this is going to be, we're going to remove all of this because we don't, it's just fake. And look, and then I'm just faking like a user model, how the information is going to display when, we come back. We're going to need something for signing out. This is all fake. We're going to just, we're going to replace it, and I'm going to have like a flag, like a method, just to check whether the user is logged in or not. Perfect. Let's proceed. So I'm going to add my service right here. See, I had a placeholder, and then I'm going to grab one of these, and I'm going to add my login service. I'm using the provider package, by the way, the provider state management strategy. I'm going to be using my login service. Perfect. So let's start again so I can just show you at least how we should be working. So I'm going to save here. This is my login service. As you just saw it, it's very simple, very simple. So let me reload it one more time. I'm going to be reloading the application. And if you see, it has a splash screen. Now is going to then go into the application. I'm going to go inside of the leaderboards. Perfect. There it is. You see, like I load some of the already the users that I already have. You see, you cannot submit the score if you're not logged in. If you are logged in, then I'm going to let you submit the score. Okay, let's do that. So if I hit login, see, I'm going to be hitting this method right here called sign in with Google. when I click on login, I'm just going to return this fake user so that you guys can see it. So when I hit login, I'm going to wait like a second, and then you should be able to see like the picture of your user when you logged in. This is just fake. It's already hard coded. Still, you don't get to submit the score because I want to make sure that when you have a valid score and when you've already played and completed the play sequence, then I'm going to let you submit the score. So let's do that. Also, we're going to log out, which all it does is just notifies the listeners and just invalidates the user. Simple as that. Look, I just say log out and then I'm done. Perfect. Awesome. So now I'm going to start building my login service. So I'm going to just remove everything. Look, I'm going to delete everything. I have my sign in. I have my sign out, like this. And I don't need any of this. So I'm going to redo my whole service. We want to implement the sign-in with Google. I'm going to show you the first thing that you need to do when you want to do the sign-in with Google. If you want to implement it with Firebase, you need to install two main packages. In my notes, I have here, these are just my notes. We're going to add the two packages that we require, which are right here. So we're going to need the Google sign-in package. So let me add another terminal, and we're going to say Flutter pub. We can say Flutter pub add, and then we're going to need Google sign-in. First, Firebase authentication, of course, because you're going to need that. Firebase auth, Firebase authentication, and let me just show you right here. Firebase authentication is right here. So Firebase authentication, again, it provides backend services and easy to use SDKs to authenticate your applications. You can use third party, you can use email and password, you can use multi-factor authentication. I'm not going to be able to do multi-factor authentication in this session, but you can. That way you can provide an extra layer of security for your users when they log into your application. So it's not just email and password or Google. No, you do a two-factor authentication via SMS. So you get a text message and then you provide like a code, then you go log in, and then it gives you that extra layer of security. So we're going to be implementing Firebase authentication right here. And I just wanted to show you real quick, for those of you who don't know, in the Firebase pricing, you can see Firebase authentication, how much it costs. So for those of you who are not using Firebase authentication, I think I already passed it. There you go. Firebase authentication, authenticating other services aside from phone, is completely free. If you do Google, LinkedIn, GitHub, Microsoft, all of those, Facebook, Twitter, they're free. So make sure to use that. So you see in the no-cost Spark plan, you got Firebase authentication completely free right here. So you should be able to take advantage of this, guys. Take advantage of it. And then here we're going to implement like Firebase authentication. And if you see, I am in the Firebase Flutter.dev website, where you have a lot of documentation, very simple to go through. And you see, the first thing that we're going to do is add the Firebase authentication. Then if you want to do like any of the social authentications, you can click here like social auth, and then it tells you how to do, for example, Google and whatnot. So you see, we have Google sign-in. Those are the two packages that we're going to be installing right now. Google sign-in, Firebase authentication. So we're going to start by authenticating the application, starting with that piece. So let's do that. So awesome. Yeah, it's true. Yes, can't argue with free. That's my kind of price right there. That's my kind of price. Free is my price. Awesome. So I'm going to do Firebase authentication, and I'm going to do now Google sign-in. So you need those two packages. I think I already have them, but I'm going to run it again. So if Flutter pub add, so you see, if Firebase auth is already added, Google sign-in is already added, so that's okay. So you could do pub upgrade, but again, if you do Flutter pub upgrade Firebase auth, it's just to upgrade the package, but there you go, and it installed it for me. Perfect. Then the next one is Flutter pub add Google _ sign _ in. Sign in my notes. Perfect. So there you go. It's already in the dependencies as well. So there you go. So I already have those two packages. Second thing, you have those packages already. Let's go to Firebase before we even start doing any coding, because if you don't do this step, you're going to be pulling your hair later, because you're like, what am I doing that something is going wrong? Let me show you what you need to do. So you go to your Firebase account. This is my Firebase project. This is my my collection, but this is not here. You have to go here where it says build authentication. You click here on authentication, and this is the part that you need to enable. You can enable any type of sign-in methods, any authentication or third-party providers. This is where you do it. build authentication. Make sure you click here on authentication in your Firebase project. And then you click here, sign in method. And here you have all of these third-party providers that you can add to your application for providing that extra layer of security and authentication. You can do email and password, Google, Facebook, Apple, GitHub, all of these, they're completely free. You don't have to pay anything. And then you can do even other things like SAML, OpenID, and whatnot. Those are recently added right there. I'm going to go with Google, so I'm going to click on Google. And here, remember I was talking about the multi-factor authentication. You can do that. I totally encourage it. So let's click on Google. I'm going to just hit enable. Make sure that this is my project public facing name. We're going to change it later, but let's keep it here for now. And then you can take a look. If, for example, if you want to do save list client IDs, that's okay. Web SDK configuration, it tells you something about the Web SDK, but we're not going to do that. All I need to do was just click enable, hit save. How hard was that, guys? Tell me, how hard was it? I just clicked the Google, I just toggled it, enabled, now I'm ready to use it. How easy is that? Cool, awesome. Let's continue now. After I enabled Google as one of my third-party provider authentication methods in my application, now let's go to the code. So I'm gonna move this over. We're gonna need it later, but let's keep it like that. Now let's start implementing some of our code in here. I already have some code from another application. Again, appreciate if you guys, again, take a look at my, you can take a look at, some of the GitHub repos that I have. There's a couple of open repos that I have. There's one in particular that I did the Firebase authentication a while back. If I go to my GitHub, I go to github.com. Yes, there's a little bit of an activity in my, my profile. There's a lot going on. I have a bunch of repositories. You see my my activity. Yeah, I've been contributing a little bit to other packages and whatnot. But there's one particular package that I have called GDG Lawrence. That one is in Flutter that I built this application, and I have the implementation on that service. Like I created the login service. And then here, I'm just going to copy paste some of these things because it's pretty much the same thing. I'm providing my own interface. As you see, I'm providing my own interface for providing the login. When I click on login, what I want is I want to launch the Google authentication screen. It's going to authenticate me. Then it's going to come back and bring back those credentials in a very secure way. So who do we have in the house? Diane, thank you very much, buddy. Thank you so much for joining. As always, we're back. Pashal, how you doing, buddy? Hadn't seen you in a while, so I'm glad that you're joining again. Thank you so much. I see a couple of people in the house. Make sure, guys, t-shirt just like this one, just to celebrate the fact that we're doing Firebase. So let's continue. Stay tuned. Let's see how much we can cover for tonight. Let's continue. So I'm going to be moving, some of that code over, and then I'm going to explain it one by one. First of all, I already had this commented out because I had it previously. So there we go. I'm importing the Firebase OAuth and Google sign-in packages, right? They're showing the squiggly line because I haven't used it. So now let's start working. So the sign in with Google method, I'm going to sign in right here. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. So the first thing that we need to do is to trigger the authentication is actually instantiating, creating an instance of the Google sign-in. So let me show you. So you do Google sign-in. So this is what triggers the authentication flow. So you need that instance of the Google sign-in. Step number two, you're going to call Google sign-in. So see right here, I'm doing it step by step. That way you don't get lost. So step by step. First step, instantiate a Google sign-in instance. Then you're going to, let me just, have to zoom out so that we can see it much better. So you get the Google user out of the Google sign-in. So you say Google sign-in, out of that instance, you say .sign-in. And because this is asynchronous, you have to do await. So you sign in. This is what triggers, pretty much, and launches the Google screen authentication, right? That's first step. I usually do this, like I say, if in the event that you don't have a Google user, or if it's null, meaning like this user, maybe you're offline or something like that, and he tried to log you in, we can do something better here. You can trigger like, here you could do, for example, like, show notification to the user, a pop-up or anything. You can say, or you're offline, for example, like, you're offline Or you can even do something like trigger something that says, maybe disable the login or whatnot. Try to say something more friendly. Don't do this, but at least I'm keeping it there just so you know that if the user is null, meaning we don't retrieve anything from the user, that's it. You're out of here. You're not logging in. Step number 4. That was third step. You check and then you continue. Fourth step, you obtain the authentication credentials from the Google user. So check this out. Step number 4, you obtain the credentials from the details of the request. After you get the Google user, when the let's say when the screen goes up and then you put email and password from Google, this is gonna come back to you. The Google Auth, meaning the one that contains that authentication piece in a very secure fashion, in a very secure package. It already gives you all that information that you can extract out of the authentication, for example, like the access token, the ID token, and whatnot. That was step number 4. You say Google user.authentication, assuming that you actually got a user. Step number 5, let's continue. See, we're cruising right through this. And this is actually all here. In the Flutter Fire authentication, let me just bring it back over. You can go here to the authentication documentation. And if you go to get started, you can see here like a lot of the code that I am doing, like it already initialized it, but pretty much it does the same thing on the authentication, like the social auth. You can take a look at all of this code. It's pretty much the same thing. It's the same thing. Even a little much cleaner, but I just wanted to do it step by step. That way you have it as well. So perfect. All good. Let's continue. After you get the authentication, we're going to do the 5th step, which is this one now. After you say you get the authenticated credentials, you're going to you get the authentication object. You're gonna get the credentials out of it, because you're gonna need the access token, and you're gonna get the ID token that you get from that authentication transaction, from when that authentication step. Then you feed it into this auth credential. You pass the access token that you get from Google. This is something that you cannot tamper with. You cannot intercept it. And the same thing with the ID token. Once you feed that into this auth provider credential, then you get those credentials. You get that Google Auth credential object. Out of those credentials is that then you will extract, for example, you're gonna extract like the name of the user, the email, their UID and whatnot. Now the last step after that, if you can even take a look at the documentation as well. After you do this, then you do this. Now you're signed in. At this point now you're signed in. You shouldn't be doing much after here, because you already got the information in the credentials. So now this is what you do. Now this is the last step. Maybe I pasted a little bit too much code in there, but let me show you anyway. So I'm going to do a word wrap, and check this out. So out of the credential, then I say return the user credential out of that. So now you're going to use the Firebase auth. You say Firebase auth that instance, sign in with credential. Now this is what goes in there, grabs the credentials for you, and then see, I don't even need to do this. Check I can even remove this if. So I can remove this guy because I don't need this. Perfect. That's it. So for example, I can say, if user credentials are not null, then proceed. But here he says that the user credentials will never be null, so that's okay. Perfect. And then I just need to make sure that, see, this is Firebase messaging. I was using Firebase messaging. That's another service from Google, from the Firebase that you can use, which is completely free. Firebase messaging, you can use that to actually, for example, in this particular case, I was capturing the token from the device and then pushing it to the cloud, and then using that I was able to send a direct message, like a push notification to the users. You don't need any of this. Apologies for that. You don't need any of that. You see, you don't need none of that. After this, you're pretty much done, like I said. So you see, let's go back. Step number 1, Google sign in. Step number 2, get the Google account. You perform the sign in. Let me sign in. That's the thing that shows up. You extract the authentication. You pass out of the Google authentication. You get the access token and the ID token, and you pass it to those Google Auth providers so that you can get the credentials. Out of those credentials, then you use the sign in with credential, because that is then what completes the whole loop and just signs in with those credentials. See, it says asynchronously signs into the Firebase with the third-party credentials. So you get the Google stuff. Now you're signing into Firebase, because that's what we're trying to do. So you use Google to sign into Firebase. All clear? Perfect. Now, after I get the credentials, I'm just going to store them locally, and I'm going to hold on to them into this object, into this model that I'm calling login user model. This user creds that you get out of the credentials, it's a little bit beefy. Like, you don't want it like too heavy. You don't want like a lot of that information. That's why I want to keep it like very light. I'm only going to need the UID. I'm only going to need the display name. I'm only going to need the photo URL. And I'm going to need the email. That's all I'm going to need. So I'm just populating this object, and then I'm all done. That's it. After I do that, now I just trigger my notify listeners. I just want to tell Flutter, rebuild yourself, re-render yourself, because I have something already so that you can use. So now I'm just going to say notify listeners, just as normal. There you go. And here, because this is a future of bool, so I'm just gonna return true. If it reached all the way down here, that means it actually succeeded. I'm gonna say return true, for example, all the way at the end, and it's gonna wrap it inside it's gonna wrap it like inside of a future. Remember what futures are in Flutter. Futures don't run in a separate isolate. Futures are nothing more than an operation to be executed in the future. A future is just telling Flutter, execute it later, please. I want you to get busy doing your thing, your rendering, and then grab this object that's just gonna tell me later when the operation completes, put it in the event loop, whenever you can, whatever in any cycle that you can execute it and call it for me, go and do it for me and then do it later. So it's just a future, something to be executed later. So that's why it returns a future. It doesn't freeze our UI, and it makes it very responsive. So there we go. The sign out function, that was the sign in function, the sign in. Perfect. I can even do this, for example, like I can say, for example, if the user logged in, very simple. I'm just going to keep it the way it was before. I'll say return if user model is not null. It's as simple as that. If the user model is not null, then, you can proceed. Let's see what it looks like how much, even with this code that we just did, let's see how far we got. Let me just rebuild the application right now. I think I have it already running somewhere. I think I have it running here. Perfect. I'm just going to do Shift R. And while this reloads, I just wanted to remind you, make sure to tweet Flutter Life Coding at the end of the session. I'm going to be raffling a Firebase t-shirt just like this one. So make sure to tweet Flutter Life Coding. You know the drill. Tweet Flutter Life Coding at the end of the session. I'm going to raffle a t-shirt. That's it. Let's continue. I'm going to go to view leaderboards, and I'm going to hit the login button. So my login button is inside of this widget called, I have a widget, specific widget that I'm calling it leaderboard score panel. It's the one that represents like this panel right here. In the previous episode, sorry about that. So here in my, there's a submit score. I have my login right here. See, I'm doing like, if it's user login, then sign in with Google and reload. That's exactly what I'm doing. So let's try that. So I'm going to go to my login service. I'm going to hit login. And now let's see what it does. So there it is. See, it's going to start the workflow. It says Skipping Frog Mobile wants to use google.com to sign in. Just because I did all of this. This is this part right here. And it's going to perform the permission. It's going to ask me for the permission. I hit continue. It pops up. And now we're going to the next step. The next step is still hanging in here. It's still hanging. Remember, this is an await. So it's awaiting for that to go from that line beyond that line. So I'm going to select my account. And that's it. You see? And I come back and I populate my image. That's it. Just because I did that piece right here, sign in with Google in those simple steps, that's all. That's all you need. This is the minimum that you can do to perform authentication. That way you can just provide really cool security and an extra layer of security to your applications. Very cool. Let's continue now with the sign out. Now I also want to sign out of this application. Look, if I click log out, it doesn't do anything. It's just log out is just it's just rebuilding. It's just like reloading the application. Look, it's just reloading it. That's all it's doing. So the sign out requires also using the Google sign in object, and I already have it right here for you. It's really simple. Check this out. The sign out is wired up to this logout button. So I'm going to just click it there. Look, that's all you need. That's all you need, literally. You just have to say Google sign in dot sign out, just await on it. Simple as that. You don't do anything else. That's all you do. You could actually wire up like a .then, and then do anything, but I'm already doing await, which is already, again, holding on to whatever when the user signs out. And then at the end, all I'm going to do is just user model.null, just invalidate my user. I can trigger the notify listeners. I can say, okay, rebuild this widget. And I'm providing a callback just in case anybody wants to do anything after sign out. So I'm doing this like in my previous application. Like if the callback is not null, I'm feeding like a callback just in case, and then I just execute it on behalf of the users. But that's really simple, very simple. So let's now see if it logs out. Let's try that. So let's reload it one more time. Again, I hope you guys are doing. Hey Joshua, how you doing, buddy? Thank you so much for joining. You're amazing. Thank you. Keep looking. We're doing Firebase Authentication. And since you just joined, Joshua, make sure to tweet Flutter Live Coding, because you might get one of these t-shirts. A Firebase t-shirt, free, all the way to your house, wherever you are. I'm going to ship it to you. And we're going to do the raffle right at the end of this session, so stay tuned. Thank you, Joshua, for joining. So let's continue. I'm going to go to the options, click View Leaderboards. I'm going to click Login. I'm going to use Continue. I'm going to say Roman. Okay. All good. I didn't like one thing about the screen. The screen is that's the auth screen that you need to like modify. But you see that it said like skipping _ mobile. I don't like it like that. I want it to show me like a better name and stuff. And then now we're going to try the logout. So the logout should just invalidate the user, call the sign out, wait for that to be done, and then just invalidate the user. So let's do that. So I'll hit logout. And then that's it. Look, I'm not logging out. I'm completely logged out. I can log in again. It will do the same thing. You see that it says skipping frog _ mobile. I don't want that name there. How do you change that? And then if I click here, continue, and then if I see what it says, choose account to continue to blah, blah, blah. This is an ugly name. I wanted to say skipping frog. How do you change that? I don't know if you guys have seen tutorials on this, but also the Flutterfire documentation has a little bit on that. But let me show you where do you do it. First thing, I'm going to go to my authentication piece. You remember in the Google authentication, when I clicked here earlier and you see this project public facing name, this is where you change it. But where do you change the icon and all of that? You actually have to go to the Google Cloud. Let me show you how to do that. So you can modify that auth screen by going here to the Google Cloud. I already have it right here for you. So you go to the Google Cloud console. Remember, you go to console.cloud.google.com. Go it with the same credentials as your Firebase project, just like this one. See my same credentials, romanjacques@gmail.com. So I'm going to go to the Google Cloud. You're going to click here. By the way, for those of you who don't know, I am also, again, Google certified cloud architect. For those of you who don't know, by the way, this Saturday I'm going to be doing a cloud certification session with GDG Cloud Edmonton. If you guys want to swing by, that would be cool. We're going to be discussing certifications. It would be really cool. Awesome. So let me go back again. So here in my Skipping Frog project in the Google Cloud, remember, Firebase, Google Cloud, same thing pretty much. So I'm going to go to APIs and services, OAuth consent screen for my Skipping Frog project. Let me show you. Here it is. Check this out now. If I click here where it says edit app, I click here edit app. That's my app name. I'm going to say Skipping Frog because I wanted to change it like that. App logo. I need an application logo. So I can grab one of the logos that I have. I think I have already one logo here. Let me see. I believe I do have it in my images. I can just grab one and create one like real quick. But I think I have like a logo for it, one of these. Like, yeah, there you go. Skipping Frog icon. I'm gonna use this guy. So let me just reveal it in Finder. Here it is. So I'm gonna use that logo in here in the app logo. I think I can drag it over. So let me just, I'm going to copy it into my desktop, and then I am going to use that. So check this out. So I'm going to go browse for my logo, go to my desktop, find my icon. There it is. App domain. You're gonna need, this is also even part of the publishing process, but I'm gonna do it real quick because I don't want to spoil the publishing of this application. I'm just gonna copy a couple of my my portfolio for like the homepage. Your portfolio. Privacy policy, you should have like all of these links in here. So I'm just gonna copy paste the same thing over. And then later in the upcoming episodes when we publish the application, we're gonna do the legit stuff. Authorized domain, it says missing the domain for romanjustcodes.web.app. So I'm gonna use my domain, romanjustcodes.web.app, for example. Developer contact information, that should be my email. So I'm gonna do roman@gmail.com, for example. And you see, I already changed the name. I already changed the icon. This is the auth consent screen. This is that Google auth screen that you saw. So I'm going to hit save and continue. There it is. It may take a few minutes to verification required because you added a logo. It says that you need to go through a verification process. That's okay. But at least I think some of this already, you can add like scopes, but that's okay. I'm going to hit save and continue. You can add optional info. That's okay. But again, this is for the publishing process. When we deal with the publishing, you're going to see this. So again, this is the auth consent screen. Let's go back to the application and let's see if this worked. So I'm going to go back to the application. I'm going to close this. See, this is all we did. So I'm going to reload the application one more time. Let's see if it actually picked it up. They say that it needs to go through a process because I added an icon, but I think even the name should be able to show now. So let's try that. I can verify it later. Let me try again. So I'm going to click options, view leaderboards, login. It still says Skipping Frog Mobile. That's okay. I can, there's another place where I need to do to change that. But I want to see, this is what I wanted you to see. It says Skipping Frog. The name changed there. The Skipping Frog name is here in the permissions that you add in iOS. Remember iOS, when you create the credentials, when you add like the Firebase and Firebase Authentication, it adds like some of these Google service info. It adds the permissions in here, like asks you for the permissions on how to see, for example, see your Skipping Frog, that's the storage bucket. It tells you, for example, like what the API keys and whatnot. You can change some of these things in the info P list that asks you for, see, Skipping Frog Mobile. So this is then the one that asks you, like, the one that asks the permission, like, hey, do you want to do that? So it's here, right here. So I can just say Skipping Frog, for example. I'm going to save. I'm going to, of course, have to kill it and reload it so that you get that. Now you can see that it doesn't look like that weird. So I'm going to do Flutter, run. I'm gonna kill this. I wish that like the icon would have shown. That would have been really cool. I'm gonna delete this. I'm gonna do Flutter run. Let's try it one more time. How are you guys hanging in there? How you guys hanging? Awesome. There it is. So let's try rebuilding the application. Now we should be able to see the name of the, we should be able to see Skipping Frog. Maybe when Google approves the icon, I should be able to see it there in the auth screen. Awesome. Perfect. Let's continue. So it's going to rebuild in just a second. Awesome. So it's going to rebuild in just a second. Now we will see it. Now it's compiling. You see, now that's why I'm saying, like, some of these things may not be so straightforward. The coding is actually much simpler than the whole configuration that you need to do. So let's try it again. I am going to now, this is waiting a little bit just to load the assets. Now I'm going to go again, view leaderboards. I hit login, and there it is. Now it says Skipping Frog wants to use google.com to sign in. You click continue. It says Skipping Frog. Soon you should be able to see the icon showing up here. I'm going to click my credentials, and we should be good. Perfect. Awesome. Now we're done. That's it, guys. We're done with authentication. This is a very basic way on how to implement authentication in your Flutter applications. Very straightforward. You can see it. I can share the information in here in the Flutter Fire. It's exactly the same thing. Remember, everything in here that you saw, I implemented it. When you go to the social auth and then you specify Google, for example, it shows you exactly how to do it. It shows you about Facebook, how you do it with Apple, and some of that. So that's pretty cool. I totally recommend it. Make sure to take a look at that documentation. You saw how straightforward it was. That's how I like things. Now let's continue, and I'm going to be doing, yes, that's right. Simple but effective. I like that. That's my kind of approach. So let's continue. So remember, now we want to be able to submit the score. So I haven't been able to submit the score because I needed to be logged in. So that's a couple of the things that I wanted to do. First of all, we need to submit the score. Let's try to implement that piece. I haven't implemented that part. And if we look at that, this panel right here, the one that's called leaderboard score is here in my widgets. It's called leaderboard score panel. This one has, for example, like if the user is logged in, I can, sign in and whatnot. The submission of the score, I'm checking something that says can submit score. So see, I'm actually even providing like some methods that I want to implement. See, I haven't implemented them yet. So I have a couple of guardrails. You can only submit the score if you're logged in, and you submit the score if you do have it. And if you're logged in, I want to submit the score. I want to add your information, your name, and all of that to submit it. So let's try this. We're going to do it together now. So first, let's start building the piece that submits the score. So we're going to do a little bit of, we're going to be doing a little bit of, Firebase Cloud Firestore. I know that some of you watched it last time, but this time I'm going to be doing a lot more for the submission of the score. So let's try doing the submission of the score. So what do we need to submit it to our Firebase collection right here? So you remember this collection right here, the one that I showed you, Firestore database. I have a leaderboard collection. I have 3 documents, my name, I have Damien, and I have Sirhan right there. Awesome. I can even come over here and change, the stuff, and then you will see it in the application. I'm not doing it real time. I'm going to be using Joshua's name, for example. Look, I'm going to be adding Joshua right there. And then if we reload it, and then if I do again back, and then I do leaderboards, you remember that I'm caching it. That is why I'm doing, I'm caching it. So let me reload it again. Now you should be able to see the new Joshua, like the Joshua's name in there. Perfect. And then later after that, I'm going to remove it, and then you will see it. Perfect. So let's see. So now if I come back over, you see, I'm just showing you so that you see that I'm not making this up or this is hard coded or anything. Look at Joshua's name right there. Awesome. Now let's come back again. I can, for example, like delete this user completely. I can just completely delete this document. I can say delete document. Let's just delete it. Now we only have 2 documents. Let me reload it again so that you can see. I'm going to submit myself one more time so that way you see that I'm not faking this. We're actually sending stuff to Firestore. So we're going to go to the options. We're going to click on the leaderboards, and I don't have anything for my name in there. Awesome. So how do you do it? First thing that you do. What do I want to do? You submit the score, but you need to be logged in. I want you to be logged in. That submit score button will be enabled if you're logged in. And then the submit score, then I'm assuming that you're already logged in so that I can submit the score. So let's do that. So I'm providing the build context in here into this method. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to inject my login service. I'm going to be using my login service. I'm going to call it login service. I'm going to use the usual provider.auth. So I'm going to say provider.auth, login service, context, listen equals false. Perfect. Now I need to pull the information, the 2 pieces of information that I'm going to use it to store in here. The user ID and the score and the time in seconds. I'm going to need that. But in a nutshell, the minimum things that I need is the name and I'm going to need the name, and I'm going to need the user ID, right? So let's do that. So I'm going to come back over. Let me put this over right here because I'm going to be switching back and forth. So I'm going to store for example, I'm going to store the player name, or, I'll say player name. I'm going to be saying login service. Remember, I have a property called logged in user model. There you go. And I'm just going to say display name. I'm going to grab the user ID. So I'm going to grab the user ID. Same thing. Login service, logged in user model dot UID. I could have done that. I could have just grabbed the model, but I just want to grab those 2 pieces. That way you see where they come from. Now I'm going to grab the information of the submitted score, which is actually provided via this method. That one contains the times in seconds, and it contains the score. So let's do that. So how do I do it? So I'm going to be using the instance of Firebase that I already have up here. So I have one singleton. It's like a singleton instance of the Firebase Firestore instance. So I'm going to say await Firestore, listen to this, dot collection. I'm going to go to the collection called leaderboard. Remember, the collection is called leaderboard. I see a tip in there. Use the Firestore binaries to improve build times. Otherwise, it will be slow. That is good. That is a great tip, Damien. Also, another suggestion, use the emulators. Why? That way you don't exhaust your quota. Very good tip, Damien. You're learning a lot. Really good stuff, man. Thank you so much. Keep it up. So I'm going to just say leaderboards. That is my collection right here. You see, oh, actually it's a singular. So I'm going to say leaderboard. And then after that, remember, I'm going to go for the document based on the user ID. So the unique identifier for a document, it has to be something unique. So I'm going to use none other than the user's ID, the authenticated user's ID. That is very unique. That is unique for every user. So I'm going to use that, the authenticated user's UID that Google gives me. So I'm going to say user ID. So how does Firebase work? If the document doesn't exist, it will create it. I don't have to check, does Roman exist in the database? I don't have to. If it does exist, it just overwrites it. And if it doesn't exist, it will create it. So after that, now I'm going to create a document. If it exists, it will overwrite it. If not, it will create it. And then I'm just going to say set. Set is the method that you use in Firebase, in Firestore to actually set the data on the document. And you look what it says. Look at the documentation. Yeah, Damien, you say emulators are gold. That's totally true. So check this out. It says sets data on the document, overwriting any existing data, but if the document doesn't exist, it will be created. So what are the three pieces of information that I need? I need the name. Remember, I need the name, score, and time in seconds. Let's do that. So I'm going to say name, player name, of course. Score. I already have it via the score config. So I'm going to say config.score. And I'm going to pass the time in seconds. And check this out. The time in seconds provided by the score config is actually a duration. So check this out. It's pretty cool. So I'm just going to say config.time.in seconds. Very simple. So I'm just going to say in seconds. What it gives me, I collect the duration in seconds, and all I do is I just give it in seconds. Then I can parse it right back out as the, the way that it looks in here. So it's really simple. I'm going to show you. I can even show you how I did that. Awesome. After I store it, you remember, I'm assuming that everything was successful, but of course, I definitely encourage you guys to, either create like a try catch exception and whatnot. You make sure to handle the error correctly. Here, I'm going to go straight up just so that you can see it. After I do this, and I've already saved a user, I'm gonna clear the cache of the users, meaning I'm gonna fetch them again. So check this out. I'm gonna say cached players.clear. Cached players is nothing more than the collection of players. When I fetch it initially, I cache it, and then that way I don't have to be pulling it again. But if I save something into the database, I want to retrieve a fresh copy of that. Perfect. Okay, so there you go. You guys are clear. And then after that, I just say notify listeners, meaning rebuild yourself, because I want to see my name up there and I want to see my score. Then the last piece of information that I want to do is, how do you check whether you can submit it? You see that this button is disabled. That means you can submit. You cannot submit. That is disabled because can't submit, it says return false. I already did it like this by default. So now we need to say, what is the logic if the user can submit the score? A couple of things. I want to check if the user is logged in, and I want to check if the score is greater than 0. If your score is not a valid score, you're not submitting. So check this out. Very simple. I'm going to say login service, login. I can even copy the same thing here. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to paste it right here. That's okay. Another thing that I'm going to need is my game service, because I'm going to pull the latest score data. So I'm going to say game service, game service. I'm going to do the same thing. You guys know the drill. By the way, it's 9:49. We're about to wrap up. Make sure to tweet Flutter Life Coding at the end of the session. I'm going to be raffling a cool Firebase t-shirt just like this one. Make sure to tweet it. Joshua, thank you so much, man. Thank you so much. All the support is greatly appreciated. But make sure to tweet Flutter Life Coding so that you can get a t-shirt like this one. Thank you so much. Thank you. Awesome, Joshua. You're always try to improve. Always try to improve. Always do refactoring. Always try to improve load times. Make sure that you even make sure that be cautious with your quota when you're using Firebase, right? So again, this is the game service. Let's continue. So now I want to pull the score configuration out of it. So I'm gonna say score config. I think I called it just like that, and then I say game service. Sorry about that. Game service get score config. We did that last couple of weeks ago. Make sure to check that video. And then all I'm gonna say here, check if I can submit my score. What is the logic to check whether I can submit? Two things. Whether I am logged in, I'm gonna say login server is user logged in. And remember what the user logged in represents. Just if the user model is not null. Simple, very simple. So if the user is not logged in, for example, if the user logged in, yes, I can submit. What else? If my score, score config, I have to say score config dot score is greater than 0. That's it. If your score is greater than 0 and you're logged in, you can submit your score. Let's try it now. I'm going to save it all. I'm going to reload my application, and now I'm going to play. I'm going to submit my score. So let's check this out. I'm going to try that. So let's see. Cross your fingers, guys. Cross your fingers. I'm going to say start. Let's play. Skip and start. Let's do this. 1, 2. It's still, the images are still not cached. There we go. So continue. Go. Oh, see, I'm doing a wrong one. Oh, I'm falling. Oh, one more light left. Oh, no. Let me do it. And I got to the end. Awesome. My score, 417 seconds. Now let's submit. If I click submit score, you see, oh, I can't submit my score. Why? Because I'm not logged in. I'm gonna log in. I'm gonna say yes. I'm not gonna allow anybody who's not logged in to submit it. You can play as much as you want, but you cannot submit. You need to be logged in. Now take a look. You see, it says submit score, can log in, and then you log out. Now let's take a look. Now let's go back to the leaderboard score panel. I'm saying here, can submit, for example, like this button will be if you can submit the score, if the score is greater. Now let's check on the logic. Like you can submit if you are logged in and if your score is greater than 0. So let me save that. Let me make sure that we still, this is still valid. So I'm gonna just hit back. I'm gonna click back on my options, click back on leaderboards. You see, still says submit score, still not enabled. So let's take a look at what we did. So I already have the logic in place. This is the button that gets enabled whether if I can submit the score, if it's greater than 0. And but also let's check where the score is coming from, because I am also pulling information from the of course the score panel service, which is that, and I get the score config. See, I get the score, I get the time, I get all of that. But also I think I was persisting that in the local store, like in the local service. So let's, for example, if I just want to make sure that if at least the user is logged in so that the user can submit the score, I'm gonna come in this just for a second, and I'm gonna take a look at this real quick. So I'm gonna just reload, and there it is. See, now you see if the user is logged in. I'm gonna take a look at the score. For some reason, it's not picking up like the latest one, but anyway, let's just see if we can submit it anyway. I'm gonna click on submit score. I'll click. It's gonna refresh. My name is still not, oh, there it is. And my name just showed up. Roman Jack was 417 seconds. I'm gonna do it again. I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna go back to my Firestore. You see, I only have, and then immediately my name came up right here. There it is. So if I delete the document, I'll delete it completely. It's not there anymore. Now if I come back, I go back. You see, I cached it. Remember, that is the capability for me to make sure that I save on bandwidth, I save on loading and whatnot, and I save on my quota. So I can take a look at that later, but at least I just wanted to make sure that you see that I'm submitting my score. So it's already here. It doesn't allow me because I'm not logged in. So if I click log in, click it over here, it enables the submit score. My name is not there. You see that I'm not there. Now let's do it. Submit score. You see the score? And there it is. I'm there. 17 seconds. And my score is 400. Awesome. So we already did two things. Submitting our score to the leaderboards making sure that we were logged in and logging out. So if I log out, look what it does. It disables the button right there. So if you log out, you can't be submitting. I can see your latest score because I'm persisting it in the local storage of the phone, but I'm not gonna let you submit it. So that's it, guys. See, we did that. The flag, what was it? Drop scores after 6. What was that? Oh, I like that. I can have a time to live flag. That's awesome. That's a great idea. That's a great idea. I like that. And actually, time to live, that's something that you can implement right now on Firebase. That's an amazing suggestion. Thank you so much. I'm actually going to implement that. That way I don't have to be deleting it. Drop scores after 6 months. I love that. That way, you know, fresh scores remain in the system. Old scores go away. I love that. Thank you so much for the suggestion. I will definitely implement it. Awesome. The last piece that I want to implement before we go and make sure that you tweet Flutter live coding so that you can get the chance to win a t-shirt just like this one at the end. Let me implement Crashlytics. That is the simplest thing that I can show you. Real quick, very simple. Crashlytics. How do you add Crashlytics to your application? What is Crashlytics? Maybe some of you might be wondering. So here it is. Crashlytics is another thing that you do. It's completely free, but what it does, it allows you to collect analytics for your application when it's on the wild. You can check for logs, you can do crash reports, you can do stack traces, you can do all of that, and you can store it in Firebase under the Crashlytics section, and then you can see, for example, if your application broke in the wild, and someone says, hey Roman, my application exploded and it just broke. What is it? And you're like, oh man, it's in production. How do I debug it? Well, you can just introduce Firebase Crashlytics in your application and then you're done. You can see like all those errors, you can see all those reporting, you can see usage. Very cool. Let's do it real quick and then with that, I'll be done because Crashlytics is so simple to implement. Let me do it for you. So check this out. Very simple. First thing that you do, just like you come over here, sorry about that, you have to add Firebase Crashlytics to your project. So let's do that. So I'm going to go here, I'm going to open up another terminal. Firebase Crashlytics. We're going to add Crashlytics to the system. Boom, there it is. So I'm going to install it. There it is, installed. Simple, one step. Step number 1, install Firebase Crashlytics. Step number 1, right? Step number 2, I'm going to go even with this thing right here. So the second thing that you need to do is platform integration from Android. It's actually only available right now for iOS and Android. I don't think it's available for web. I think they mention it in the documentation. But these are the things that you need to add to your package. So I'm going to go right down the line. I'm going to move it to the side and then you're going to look. So first step, install Firebase Crashlytics. Now let's go to our Android bundle application, the Android app bundle. So I'm going to go to my Android. Sorry about that. As is iOS, I'm going to go to Android. I'm going to go to the first build Gradle, like the root build Gradle. I'm going to then say in my dependencies, I'm going to add this line of code right here. I'm just going to add this piece right here. That's it. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to bring it over. Just drop it right here. Just right under this. I'm going to paste it. Sorry about that. Do paste. Perfect. That's the Crashlytics that you need to add in the first Gradle. Second one, you're going to add the next one to the apps build Gradle. Just grab this guy and add it all the way at the end of the second build Gradle that is located inside of the Android app build Gradle. Just right here, scroll the way down. See, I didn't even have it. Paste it right underneath it. That was step number 3. Step 1, install Crashlytics. Step number 2, add the dependency on the first build Gradle. Third, add the third one. The third step is adding the plugin in there for Crashlytics. Rebuild the app and you're done. That's it. It's already set. All you need to do is just grab the instance of Firebase Crashlytics and start, logging the hell out of your application. It's so simple, guys. It's so simple. I'm going to show you now how to do it. So after you do that, I'm going to kill the application, of course, because it needs to interpret the new packages that I've installed. So I'm going to just kill this and I'm going to say Flutter run. I'm going to run it again. Perfect. It's going to interpret the new Firebase Crashlytics. And that's it. So let's do one simple example. That way I can, I can let you guys go. And then again, thank you so much for being here throughout this hour. We did a lot. We did authentication, saving score, Crashlytics. I'm going to finish this and then you're going to see how simple it is. It's so simple, guys. So while this is rebuilding, now let me show you how you import the reference of that, how you import the reference of Firebase Crashlytics into your application. While this is building, it's say it's gonna build for Android, but again, we're still doing iOS. It still does it anyway, so that's perfect. It's just for Android that you need to do that. For iOS, thank God you don't need to do anything because it's already set up for you, but the installation is already set. So now let me come over here. So I'm gonna wait until it finishes, and then now you go to your main.app. I'm gonna follow exactly the same way that they're saying it. Look, the usage of Firebase Crashlytics, the way that you do it is that the same way that you initialize Firebase, you can add Crashlytics. By the way, Crashlytics is completely free. You don't pay for Crashlytics. You don't believe me? Oh, okay. Look, Firebase pricing. For those of you who were doubting it, Crashlytics. What the heck are you? Firebase Crashlytics. No cost. Oh, you didn't believe me that it was free? Companies use it for free, completely free. That's what I love about it. So there you go. So it's still building, but this is how you do it. This is how you integrate it in the application. So you see that we're initializing the application? Perfect. So this is how you do it. You initialize the application, and anywhere in the code, you can either do this, just hit crash in the Firebase Crashlytics, that instance. But the proper way to do it is that any error that happens in your application, you can just make it that it goes into Firebase Crashlytics. So the way that you do it is you wrap your whole application. You scroll a little bit lower. This is the minimum that you could do. Maybe in a separate session, I can do one whole thing about Crashlytics only. But this is the simplest thing that you can do. Is so simple. Look, you wrap your application, the whole application, in a zone guarded. You run the zone guarded, meaning you run in its own zone. You run the application, the whole application inside a zone. Every exception that happened within your application throughout the duration of your application is going to be captured by Firebase Crashlytics. So I'm going to do this. Look, check this out. You have to just wrap all your application, your whole application. Check this out. So you just grab your application, everything in here, just like this. You grab all of this. You say run zone guarded, just like this. Look, check this out. And then I'm going to do future void. I say future void because this is again like the void main. So you go future void. It's like a callback. So you add a callback to it. You see, you pass a callback to it, which is the main method pretty much. And then, so that's exactly what I'm going to do. So I'm going to pass a callback and a sync callback again. I say a sync. Let me fix this thing right here. Perfect. And the on error is going to have to be another callback that captures all the errors and just passes it along. So there, the application is still building, but I'm still setting this up still. So perfect. So look, you wrap the whole application inside a run zone guarded with a future void. You still initialize the application. Now you do this. Every exception, every error that Flutter throws is gonna be marshaled or kind of like tunneled in through Firebase Crashlytics. So this is what it see. So I'm gonna instantiate it. I'm gonna import it. It says record Flutter error on error, meaning every exception that your application throws is gonna be captured by Firebase Crashlytics. So I'm gonna grab this piece right here. See, I'm copying pasting, guys. I'm not making anything up. I'm following exactly as if you would have done it. There you go. Now check this out. I didn't have to do anything else but this. Now let's purposely throw an exception or log something into the application. Check this out. So now anywhere you are in the application, you can do this. For example, this is let's go to the splash screen, or actually even here, the material app, like here, like in the builder, I'm gonna say this, Firebase Crashlytics .instance.log, and I'm gonna say Roman just codes, for example. What this is gonna do, when the application loads for the first time, when it bootstraps, is going to then log something into Crashlytics. It's just gonna log it. You can actually even say here something like record error. record error then allows you to record an error. There's a lot of great methods in here. I would encourage you to take a look at the API because there's so much richness about Firebase Crashlytics that you can do. Yeah, I would definitely love this for the web as well. It's so cool. But the simplest one that you can use is this, like this instance.log. So let's try that. So I'm going to reload it. Let's go here. So when the application rebuilds, it's supposed to be doing something into Crashlytics. So let's go back to our project. And after this, we should be done. Let me just bring this over here and let's take a look. We can go here to our Firebase project, go to Crashlytics. And let's see when issues come over here. So one of the things that I'm saying is doing the log. So I'm going to try again. I'm going to kill the application. I'm going to do Flutter run one more time. So what this is supposed to say is just log when the application initializes. I'm going to just log Roman just codes. I should be able to see it like as a log in here. So let's take a look. So I'm going to reload the application. Let's see. After that, then we should be done. Thank you again, all of you, for joining. Make sure to tweet in just the next couple of minutes Flutter live coding so I can raffle this Firebase amazing t-shirt. I'm gonna ship it right where you are, wherever you are in the world. Thank you so much, everybody. All of you guys who have received your t-shirts, thank you so much. Dyer, and you have a chance to get the Firebase t-shirt. It looks really good, man. It fits nicely. So stay there, man. Just one more minute. I'm about to do this. So take a look. So the application is gonna launch. It's holding on right there. It's loading. It's supposed to be sending something to Crashlytics. So I'm going to just reload and see what happens. It may take a little bit, but you can take a look. For example, like you can here you can stretch it and see how all the issues that you may get. You can throw exceptions and whatnot. For example, like here I could have done like something like throw error, or like throw state error, something like this, and say sorry app. For example, like, sorry, application blew up. Something like this. And even if you do something like this, you see, like, it's going to blow up, and then that's it. But this is going to go to Firebase Crashlytics. So if I save it again, I'll reload. Let's see what it does. If I don't do it here, I can move it somewhere else. But at least I just want to be able to see, like, some of those issues coming up in here. So let's see. It's even, like, blowing up, of course, because I did it even before the application loads. So this is Crashlytics for you. You should be able to see here, for example, like any insights or whatever. You can see crash data. You can filter anything that is open. There it is. Look, so I already get, these are some of the ones that that you can get from your application. Right here, it even tells you like the specific line and whatnot that shows up. So you can see logs. Here is where you can see the logs. See, I was doing, for example, like loading splash screen. These are the things that you can do with Firebase Crashlytics. You can log anywhere. You can throw exceptions. All of that you can capture in Firebase Crashlytics, and you don't have to submit code or anything like that, or try to debug it in production because it's really difficult. So that was it, guys. This is Firebase Crashlytics. I wish we could have done like maybe a longer session on Firebase Crashlytics, but in the next session I can go more deeper into that. But now for the time of the hour, what is it? The hour, the moment of the day, the hour of the day. Let's do the raffle of the Firebase t-shirt. So for the special moment of tonight, we're gonna do the raffle. Let's go. So thank you, everybody. Let's see if everybody was tweeting Flutter Live Coding. Let's do that. So I'll do the wheel of names. Let's do the wheel of names. I'm gonna go to the import Twitter users. If anybody was doing Flutter Live Coding. If you guys have been good boys and girls, let's take a look. Let's see. Awesome. So we got a couple of folks that have already done it. I'm going to remove myself just to make it fair. I have a couple of folks again. Thank you so much for joining this session. You guys have been amazing. Good luck to everybody. This is a raffle for a Firebase t-shirt just like this one. So good luck to everybody. Fingers crossed. Let's spin it and let's see who's going to get the t-shirt. Awesome. Let's try it. And the winner, Oladoyin Ayodeji. Thank you so much, man. You got it. You are the winner of this Firebase t-shirt. Wherever you are, please make sure to follow me on Twitter. Let's talk. Let's sync up offline so I can send you your amazing t-shirt. For the rest of you, thank you so much. You guys have been amazing. I hope you guys learned a little bit more about Flutter, Firebase, Crashlytics. You saw how easy it was to set up. You saw Firebase Authentication. You saw me going into the Firebase project. We enabled a third-party provider like Google. You can do a lot more than that. But this was a very simple example, but at least I'm moving my application forward and it's looking much better by the day. Thank you so much, everybody. This was Live Coding After Hours, Flutter Edition. My name is Roman Jaguas. I am a Flutter GDE. Thank you, everybody, for watching. See you next time. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much. Take care.